Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield, a content partnership with Corteva Agriscience. Our guest for this episode is Scott Pringnitz, a market development specialist for Corteva. Scott, as growers start making applications of Enlist herbicides this season, what are some things they should be thinking about to get the most from each trip across the field?
Well, it's in everyone's nature to try to minimize duplication of effort, right? And one of the major advantages of the Enlist herbicides is the tank mix flexibility that they offer, especially with Enlist One herbicide. For example, you're able to essentially mix Enlist One plus glufosinate, which is the active ingredient in Liberty herbicide, and that becomes really important when you mix those two together because they are considered two very effective modes of action against a lot of broadleaf species like giant ragweed, mare's tail, Palmer amaranth, water hemp, and a number of other tough to control weeds. So it's extremely important that you have that flexibility to mix those two together, not only for effective weed control, but for improved resistance management. And in addition, if you wanted to, in some cases, you could even add in glyphosate to that mix as well. So it's just extremely handy that you're able to do that in one application. Not all herbicide programs allow that kind of flexibility. There's a second example where you're able to mix in what's considered a layered residual, a product like Inversa. That's our preferred layered residual product, a group 15 herbicide that will help extend the residual for some tough broadleaves like Palmer amaranth and water hemp. And so it's very nice that you're able to include those in those post-emerge applications. And then beyond herbicides, even, you have the ability to mix in insecticides, fungicides, or even nutritional products if the environmental conditions or the need calls for it in the crops that you're spraying. The website enlisttankmix.com is a great source to go to where it lists more than 1,700 products that can be mixed with the various herbicides Enlist One and Enlist Duo. So that's a great place to check and optimize your effectiveness going across that field and hopefully having maybe more than one purpose even as you're making that application.
What else should farmers consider when making applications of Enlist herbicides in season?
Well, I can speak from personal experience on this one where it's incredibly important to avoid sprayer contamination. So starting with a clean sprayer and a clean system is extremely important. That's especially important if you've been previously spraying other crops, other products that would be considered sensitive to the enlist crop you're about to spray. And cleaning that sprayer most of the time, you need to at least do a triple rinse. And it's extremely important to look at the small areas, the end caps, maybe some of the, definitely clean out the filters and that type of thing. It's important to do that not only before making the application of the Enlist herbicides, but it's also important to do that after you're done spraying, particularly if you're going to go to some other non-Enlist crops. What's ideal there is like I mentioned, triple rinsing. It's important to also let the sprayer essentially dry out, if you will, after cleaning, or at least not to let the active ingredients or the previous herbicides dry to the side of the tanks. If an applicator gets in a hurry at that point and you have it dried on the side, that's a great way to have some of that contamination carry over into the next application. So it's important to rinse the sidewalls down, get those small areas cleaned out, and then make sure they're dry or don't contain those dried active ingredients. The exception to that would be if you're going from, say, Enlist soybeans to Enlist corn. In that case, just a single rinse is what's recommended in that case if you're making that transition.
You mentioned a website earlier. Let's hit that again. And then any other online website or resource that you would point farmers to that would like more information?
Yeah, the website I had referenced earlier was the enlisttankmix.com, and that website is specific to the tank mix flexibility topic there. As I mentioned, indicating 1,700 approved mixing partners. But then there are other sources like your local Corteva territory manager. There's the Enlist product use guide. And of course, local retailers are a great source of knowledge as well in that regard. And then lastly, the Corteva.us is a great general purpose website that includes information on all the Corteva products beyond Enlist.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield, a content partnership with Corteva Agriscience.